Hey guys, Brent Pointer here. I had a lot of people that knew that my dad and I were going up to DC yesterday. Today's January 7th. Yesterday was obviously January 6th, and we were going up for the Trump rally. And people were nervous after things got out of hand, and I had a lot of people asking me what was going on, where was I at throughout all of it. And so I figured this might be a little bit of a lengthy video, but if you wanted a first-hand account of what happened and what we saw. And my dad and I were together the entire time, so his story would be the same as mine. And if you want to reach out to him, he can either validate it or add to it or whatever it is. But I made a couple of notes. I got a couple of websites that I was just going to talk about shortly, just to kind of give the context and make sure I don't miss anything that I wanted to tell you guys about yesterday, because it was kind of a blur. First thing I'll say is I'll tell you why I went. I kind of just wrote this down so I don't have to, memorize it. But honestly, it was to support the president, right? One of the things is that there's so many people out there that say there's no evidence of fraud. Then there's people that say there was massive fraud. Let's just say one side's right, one side's wrong, and you guys probably would assume that I'd be on the side that thinks that there was a vast amount of fraud. But let's say I'm wrong, okay? Let's say I'm wrong and there was no fraud. And this is the point, though. Whether or not there was enough fraud, the thing is that these states changed their processes to benefit them in the weeks leading up to the election in an unconstitutional manner. And that's just the fact. Whether or not that led to fraud or not, it's just the fact. The state legislatures have the power under the Constitution to change their own state's election law, and that was not used in many of the states. So I don't know why the Supreme Court and many other courts didn't want to see those questions and those flags to the Constitution in our electoral process, because it was states suing states, and finally got to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court said that they didn't want to even see the case. So that was the problem, was that none of this was looked at, right? So when you have so much going on, so many voter irregularities, so many sworn affidavits and everything like that, but then no one's going to look at it, that creates a whole massive amount of doubt. And to me, I think it was a good case. Obviously, I'm not a legal scholar, lawyer, anything like that, but it would be in a federal election, states disenfranchising other states if they did not have fair elections, because those were offices at a federal level which would affect them in their own particular state. So that's why we went. And that's never going to be disproven, now, because no one looked at it. So, not bad sports about it or anything. I mean, if Biden won legitimately, he won legitimately. I mean, that's fine, but there was just so much going on. We wanted a review. We wanted it to be looked at honestly and under the guise of the Constitution, to see if this really was what, people on the left side of the spectrum and the vast majority of the media says it was, which was just a Biden blowout somehow, whatever. So I want to tell you guys what happened while I was there, okay? Because I've had so many people ask me, and instead of me just retelling the story over and over, or me typing it out and people losing context, I like talking to people in person, and since I'm not going to see all of you guys in person anytime soon, and I wouldn't want to recant the same story anyway, I'm just going to tell you in a video, and hopefully it'll be like, we were sitting there, and I was telling you. So we got there Tuesday, later in the afternoon. My awesome Aunt Susie and Doug, they They took Dad and I in. They gave us a great dinner, and it was delicious. It was wonderful. So if you guys are watching, thank you, Susie and Doug. They're not technically my blood. It's Kayla's aunt and uncle, but hey, I'm married in, so y'all are family. So we planned on getting up really early the next morning to get down to D.C. to make sure we had a good spot and we had plenty of time. And we had been looking at the weather a good bit, and it looked like it was going to be close to 50 and sunny. It was not. It was cold. It was freezing. It was windy. It was cloudy, and probably I'd say the real feel was in the low 30s, if not high 20s. I don't know. Fact check me on it. Look what the weather was in DC at that time. But it was freezing. It was miserable, and we were standing there for hours. So one of the things that Dad and I talked about before we went up there, because there's one of the main concerns that so many people had was these counter protesters, right? The antifa groups, the Black Lives Matter groups, things like that, that we've all seen, hopefully we've all seen on the news and on media of violence, getting sucker punched from behind, them throwing stuff on you, all kinds of stuff like that. So Dad and I are both concealed weapons carry owners and participators, but those laws don't apply in DC. And so I've been to DC over half a dozen times, and there's always police everywhere walking around with, AR-15s and dogs, and just anywhere you look, any corner, there's a police officer or a police car or even mounted police. I think that was really the only police I ever saw the entire time I was there, at least for the vast majority of the day. There was one point that I saw some mounted police kind of walk by next to the Washington Monument. I think I counted like 5 or 6 of them, but they just kind of walked by and then kind of walked on off. And they never really got closer than about 50 yards to where we were all lining up. So we were lining up, we got there. There was a curfew in DC, if you didn't know, because of COVID. You can't be out unless you're essential or it's an emergency between like 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. So we couldn't leave Susie's house until 5 a.m. We left right at 5 a.m., met up with one of her friends that was a local, and she showed us a great way to get around all the traffic and get into DC and find a good parking spot. So we did. We found a good parking spot. It was maybe a little over half a mile to the Washington Monument. And if you guys don't know DC, you have the Washington Monument, and then below it right here is the ellipse, which is where the main event was going to be. Then below that, across Pennsylvania Avenue, is the White House down here. So it's a big area, right up here. But we had kind of parked up over here, and then made our way to the Washington Monument. And there was like a line starting right there. And it was still dark outside. And so we didn't know any better. We didn't know what was going on. We got in the line. We figured it was going to be a security checkpoint or something. There was no security checkpoint. Dad and I each, in our little packs that we brought, where we were going to have like some snack food and water and ibuprofen, whatever, in case we needed something like that. We packed like a little pocket knife. We each picked out one that we wouldn't feel sad if security said, no, you can't have it, throw it away, or if we're taking it, and then we just give it to them and, just not have a pocket knife. So we were like, all right, we were very conscious about that. We didn't want to break any laws, and wanted to make sure that we were just there for all the right reasons, and Lord willing, we would be protected. It was unnerving, though. There was no police anywhere. There was no checkpoints. So when we were first in that line that was kind of circling around the Washington Monument, it just turned out to be an arbitrary line because we were kind of standing there, kind of moving slowly forward. And I told Dad, I said, let me go forward a little bit. Let me go scout ahead and see what's going on. So I walked all the way around the Washington Monument, came down towards the ellipse, and you kind of come down this hill. And I could see that it really was just an artificial line. It was just people, because we were talking with people in line. There was people from California, Washington State. There's people from all over that were here for this thing, and it was most of them their first time in DC, so they didn't know what to do. I knew the layout of the land, so I walked around and I saw that there was no checkpoints. There was nothing. It was just file in and sit where you wanted to, stand where you wanted to stand. It was all muddy down there, and that was it. So I walked back up to Dad and I said, Dad, come on, we can just go on up there. So I told a couple of the people, I think we did around us, it's like, I don't think we need to be in this line. We can just kind of go up. So we went on down. Oh, I'm sorry. Before that happened, there was this one guy, while we were standing in line, he was being really crude. He had a bullhorn and he had a buffalo hat on. That might just raise some eyebrows for some of you guys that have been following the news. And he had a big spear. He had a big spear. And so Dad and I were kind of joking to each other. We were worried about our little pocket knives, but here's a guy with a big spear running around being super vulgar on a bullhorn and playing it up big time, playing it up big time. But so anyway, he was there next to us for maybe about 5 minutes. I could have reached out and touched him if I wanted to, but whatever. Everybody else was, being super polite and having a good time. So we went on down around, found a good spot to stand, and we were there for several hours. Several hours. It was freezing. It was kind of miserable, but it was really fun. It was really fun. There was a lot of really great people that we got to talk to while we were there. Dad and I just kept getting a nerve that there was no security, like none, no police anywhere. We didn't see any. And I actually started to ask some of the people around us, have you guys seen any of these counter-protesters or anybody been giving you all a hard time? And I couldn't get anybody to tell me that they had seen anything. There was one lady that said that she saw somebody holding like a Black Lives Matter sign as she was walking in early in the morning, but they weren't agitating anybody. They were just kind of standing there holding the sign. So I was like, okay, I don't know. Maybe this event is just so big that they figured it might not be a good idea, to come and try to counter-protest or whatever. I don't know how many people were there. There were estimates, hundreds of thousands. I've heard many people say over 1 million. I don't know how I'd be able to tell how many people were there. I was on the ground. I didn't have an aerial view, but I just know you couldn't see anything but people. I've never been around that many people in my life. It was just incredible. It was remarkable. But so, anyway, so while we're standing there kind of waiting on everybody to start doing their speeches up on the stage and stuff, it was really neat. There was families with kids. It was really inspiring. There was older vets there, like in walkers, that made the time to come out there and trudge through the mud and be out there with everybody. There was actually, standing next to Dad, there was a group of 3 younger ladies. They were probably mid-20s, and there was a younger guy probably about around the same age. And my dad kind of nudged me at one point, and he said, I think that guy just got saved. And I said, really? And I look over, and he's got tears in his eyes, and they're just standing there smiling and talking. He said, yeah, they've been talking for a while, and they all just got around him and put their hands on him, and he bowed his head, and they were praying for him. And when he stood, straight, completely back up, he had tears in his eyes, and he was crying, and they were all smiling. So hopefully that gives kind of a good idea of what the whole atmosphere was like. It was happy, it was fun, kids, babies, vets, all kinds of people. I couldn't believe how many South Vietnamese flags I saw there. So apparently Trump has done very well in that demographic. There's tons of people with more pigment than me. I'm like Olaf. There was tons of people with different nationalities that were there. That was really cool to see as well. But so every once in a while, I would say something just to get kind of the crowd laughing and joking. I'd be like, "Where's Hunter?" And then everyone would laugh and shout back, "Where's Hunter?" So that was kind of fun. I did that a little bit. But so let's see here. Oh yeah, so when Don Jr. came out, it was really neat because you couldn't see anything for people all the way down to the front, all the way back past the Washington Monument. One of the first things he said when he came out, and you guys can look up all the speeches online, they're all there. You can see exactly what they said and what I saw them say. So Don Jr., one of the main jokes that he said right away was that, isn't this amazing? The city's not burning down. We've never seen so many people here, and the city's not burning down, right? So it was incredibly peaceful. We were having a blast. We were having a good time. You'll see in some of the pictures and videos that I post later, there was massive American flags that everyone was kind of pulling across the crowd and handing off to the whole new section of people over here. And it was just fun. It was really fun. It was great. But still, no security or police anywhere. Couldn't figure it out. Um, we were all singing songs, God Bless America, hymn songs, all kinds of stuff like that. And when Trump came out, he, look up the speech. Just go ahead and look it up, because the first things that we heard after events turned sour was that Trump incited this or whatever. I don't know. You have to be lying to yourself to say that he did that, because that's not the case. Hey, baby, I'm making a video. That's not the case. He, from the best of my knowledge, he said that, yep, I'm trying to encourage the weak Republicans down there at the Capitol, and so we're going to march down there and try to give them the courage that they need to do what's right and to be brave. And he said, I'm going to go with you. So we didn't know what that meant. We were thinking maybe he's going to show up in the Beast, his big limo down there, or, I don't think anyone actually thought he was really going to march with us, because that would be obviously a security threat. But that was cool. Everybody got excited. We were like, yeah, all right, so let's go. So we go marching down, and Dad and I were pretty close to the front. I'd say probably at least close to the first 1/8 out of how many people were there. As we're getting a little bit closer, we're probably about halfway down Constitution Avenue, headed up to the Capitol. That same guy in the bull hat has his bullhorn, and he's running through, and he's yelling, I'm not going to say it in case any kids are listening, but he's yelling the F word, F antifa, F antifa, and he's trying to get everybody to, start screaming that chant. And he had like maybe 4 or 5 other guys that were around his age, and they were the ones yelling that too, and F CNN, stuff like that. Dad and I were kind of chuckling as we were walking, just because it was kind of so awkward, but it was bad, because there was literally like moms with like babies walking in their strollers like down towards the Capitol. And so we just tried to ignore that guy. He ran by with his spear and his bullhorn. Then we get closer to the Capitol. So we actually took some pictures as we were walking up towards the Capitol, but when we got close enough to the Capitol to kind of see what was going on, it was pretty crazy. And so you can see that there's like scaffolding up against, what they use when they set up like outside of construction sites. There's like scaffolding that was either put there before or brought there now. And it's up against there, and there's guys like hanging off of it, like waving flags everywhere, and you can see people kind of like hanging onto the walls of the Capitol and everything. And Dad and I are just like, what in the world? I actually took a short video of that, trying to see, because we didn't make it up to like the Capitol steps. We were like kind of still across the street, and there was a guy standing in a truck, like literally 10 feet from me on my left, and he's standing on his truck, and he's waving his phone around, and he goes, "We breached the Capitol! We breached the Capitol!" And he's screaming it. And Dad and I just like stop, and we look at each other, and we're like, what is going on? And so he keeps saying it, and then as certain other people are walking up, they're saying, "What are you talking about? What are you talking about?" He said, "Yeah, I got him on FaceTime video right here." And so he's like trying to show everybody he's FaceTiming from some of his buddies that have already made it into the Capitol. And at this time also, there's another guy that seems to be part of that same group that's yelling, "You guys are just coming for Biden's inauguration party. Pence is already folded. He's already folded." And he's yelling all this stuff back and forth. And so Dad and I are kind of getting confused. And at this point, we can start to hear some pops and some louder noises going off up there, right at the Capitol. And I look at Dad and I'm like, nothing good can come from this. I mean, this won't solve anything. And he goes, "No, this is terrible." And I said, "Gosh, if there was anything we could do, can you think of anything we could do?" And he was like, "I don't know of anything we could do." I said, "I don't want to go to jail at all, especially not in D.C., not for anything associated with this." And I said, let's just go. And he goes, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's go. And still at this point, I had not seen any cops. None. All the streets down Constitution Avenue that we were coming down, The side streets were blocked off, not with police cars like you would normally see in DC. They were blocked off with heavy equipment, like city equipment, city trucks and things like that. And so I'm thinking by the time we had gotten to where we could see the Capitol, it had already been 5 minutes of pandemonium up there, probably. And then we stood there for about another 5 minutes trying to figure out what in the world was going on, because cell phone reception was really bad for me, and so it was for Dad. Couldn't figure out what was going on. We decided to go back. So we turned around and we went back the other way, and it was just still just waves and waves of people coming that way towards the Capitol. And it took probably 15 minutes more. So I'm thinking the timeline had to have been 5 minutes since it had started, 5 minutes of Dad and I standing there, another 15 at least for us to go back. So we're talking 20, 25, maybe even 30 minutes since the breach or whatever had happened. And as we're going back at this point, police cars start screaming around the corners and coming in towards the Capitol. And they came in from everywhere. They came in force. They had the huge paddy wagons, the big vans, where they could round up tons of people if they needed to. And this whole time, I'm sitting here thinking, geez, that's scary. These guys are idiots. Whoever's doing this, it's not going to help anything. It's only going to hurt. But then I'm going back to the same thing. Where was all the security to begin with? We had our 50 senators, our vice president, all their staffers, basically the VIP list of Washington in that building with a very controversial subject at hand. Where was the security? I didn't see, since then I've looked and I've seen once things got really crazy and the police got there, then it really got out of hand where they were pushing barriers back and forth and they came in riot gear and everything. But I'm telling you, man, when I was first there wasn't anything. It was just free reign anarchy up there at the Capitol steps. If there was any cops, I didn't see them. And then it took them about 30 minutes to get there. To me, it just seems way too suspicious, like they wanted to give them time to go ahead and get done what they needed to get done before, the rest of this bad stuff happened. But so, Dad and I make it back to my car, probably another 20 minutes after that. We were down past the Smithsonian on the far side of the Washington Monument. As soon as we got back in my car, we both got instant alerts on our phones. The DC mayor was instituting a curfew and a lockdown and all that stuff, and I was like, geez, Dad, this is perfect timing. Let's just go home. Let's just go home. And he's like, yes, let's just go home. So we got on the interstate and we're going. We probably went about 30 minutes, and we're both getting text messages from family members, church members, friends, trying to figure out what in the world is going on. Are we in the Capitol? I actually joked with some of my buddies because pictures were coming out now, and they're sending me pictures of people that are in the Capitol. And and I said, oh yeah, I'm at the podium. I'll keep you in contact as long as I can. Kind of thing. I was joking with some of them, and they were laughing because obviously they knew. That's not what I was there for, nor was I anywhere close to that situation. But then I started to get some pictures of guys that I saw throughout the day. And these were these guys that were being jerks, causing all the ruckus. And then we pulled off to get something to eat. We pulled off to get some Mexican food. And by the time I had sat down, I had literally like 50, 60 text messages from friends, family, and everything. And they're trying to send me all the news that they know, but they're wanting to know what I know. And more pictures are coming in of all these people that I saw and I was just next to for a lot of the day in many circumstances. And gosh, it all just started to make sense. Call it a conspiracy theory or whatever. I'm just telling you what I saw. That's all I'm telling you. It was insanely crazy. There was no security at all. Took the police at least probably 30 minutes, and I'm pretty sure. This is one of the cool things, guys, is that every single person there had a cell phone. Everybody had a cell phone. You will get 1,000 more videos and pictures from everybody's perspective. So anybody that's trying to lie can be made out to be a liar. And I'm just telling you exactly what I saw, and I'm going to post, my pictures and videos here after I post this. So hopefully watch this video first. It'll give you context of the pictures and what we did and what all happened. Let's put it this way also. If, with as many people as were there, with as little security, almost none at all, there was, if there was a large group of these people in our massive group that really wanted to take the Capitol, and they were never screened for any weapons at all, those people would still be in there, and we'd still be in a standoff, and some really, really horrific things could have happened. I know there was, unfortunately, one lady, I believe from California, Air Force vet, that lost her life, sadly. But if this was intended to be what the media and what a lot of people want to believe it was, it's not. So this is the last thing I'll give you here, because I did just a little bit of looking, just because I didn't want to sound too crazy. I wanted to make sure that I gave a little bit of context and some backup for this. So on the way home, I let Dad drive for a little while, and I looked up, and it says right here, the D.C. mayor told federal law enforcement to stand down day before violent U.S. Capitol riot. And this is from the Federalist. You know what? I'm not going to read you the article. You can look it up. I just told you. It's the Federalist. The title of it is D.C. Mayor Told Federal Law Enforcement to Stand Down Day Before Violent U.S. Capitol Riot. Right? Okay. So that was from January 6th, right there, 2021. Okay? And then also, if you guys want to look to know that I'm not crazy that these Antifa guys were Antifa guys, because they were, you can go to the New York Post. Title of that one is, 2 known Antifa members posed as pro-Trump to infiltrate Capitol riot, sources say. They say 2. I saw way more than that. Now, obviously, I'm assuming a lot of the other ones that I saw were Antifa, but I mean, they've confirmed at least 2 there. And then go to the Washington Times if you want. Facial recognition firm claims Antifa infiltrated the Trump protesters who stormed the Capitol. There's that. I'm not saying there wasn't any actual, Trump supporters that didn't get riled up in the moment and do some really dumb things. It's possible. I mean, mob mentality is powerful, but wasn't Dad and I, and I don't believe that would have even come close to happening had it not been what I believe was planned, and that's unfortunate. But I love you guys. I know that's a long video, but I've just, like I said, instead of telling this 30-minute story to 100 people, I'm just making this video. I'm going to post it. And if anyone wants to know about a first-hand account on what was going on, you can share this. If you want to argue with me about something, I'm not going to. So you can post it, but I'm not going to respond. If you want to say something like, I'm glad you're safe, Brent, I'll give you a like. Because that's the comments I like. Nice comments. God bless you guys, and thanks for the prayers.